Let's solve the AI recruitment problem. If you like my content and feel able to, please do like it or follow my blogs, Spotify and YouTube channels or Facebook channel. It would mean and help an awful lot. Thank you. Let's solve the AI recruitment problem. Some of you will remember the blog I wrote a while back about the problems that organizations face now that candidates are using AI to write LinkedIn profiles, CVs, covering letters, do interview prep and for help with completing other recruitment exercises such as technical tests. That previous blog I wrote saw me jokingly apply. Within the blog only an official application was never submitted, for the post of Chief Executive Officer at the Human Trafficking Foundation. Most worryingly, I am now seeing LinkedIn profiles that clearly have been written by AI and seeing too many of them. A classic was a profile for a supermarket shelf stacker that made the shelf stacker and the role out to be a million miles away from what each actually were. The problem here is that this greatly impacts the employer and we'll see more and more employers getting the wrong staff and having to pay out huge sums to get rid of such staff because of the new Workers' Rights Act. So how do we solve the problem? Well, I have given this a lot of thought. Here is the process. Advertise the job. Basic info, job title, salary, location, benefits, responsibilities. No recruitment agencies. Just advertise on a job-specific / industry-specific website, the company website and LinkedIn. Do not accept LinkedIn applications. Hold an open day. No prior applications. All applicants to arrive at 9 a.m. on the day. Details of the open day to be in the advert. Open day format. Application forms. Filled in by hand in block capitals. The previous employment section includes a section for line managers' names, email addresses and phone numbers. Can't remember their name and number, then you leave the process. Education, make sure you have your GCSE certificates, etc. with you. Employer's staff check details as they come in. Fail a check, then leave the process. Time limit to fill in. Say a 1-hour exam style, no talking to other candidates. This part should include all GCSE and post-GCSE education. This should include all employment post-age 16. Covering letter. Handwritten again in block capitals. 2 pages of a 15-minute time limit. Can't complete in the time frame, then you leave the process. Any technical / psychometric testing. Fail the test, then you leave. Certificates checks. Registrations checks. Background checks. Reference checks from references other than previous line managers. General intelligence check. Different questions for each candidate, mastermind style. 30 questions each. If you fail a question, then you leave the process. For example, ignoring the duplicate count 13 Prime Ministers forward from Alec Douglas Hone, who won the Football League First Division in 1986. From what years was the Ford Sierra motor car produced? Name 3 famous people who died in 1991. Discussion of the role with candidates with group question and answer session. If a candidate asks a stupid question, then they leave the process. Individual interviews. Suggest a roulette style. Questions in sealed packs in a bowl. The candidate selects the question to answer each time. Fail a question. Fail the interview. Selection of the final candidate. Yes, you might only have one candidate left standing. Run final checks, for example, DBS, and then proceed to onboarding and induction. Yes, It is one hell of a process, but to be fair, it's actually the only way that I can see that we can cut through AI-produced dross in the recruitment process. It would be an expensive performance to put on as well. However, I feel that the expense would be justified if it covers the employer's back. AI is getting smarter and more thorough. More importantly, people are getting much better for themselves at prompt engineering. This could, for example, quite easily mean that a shelf stacker at a supermarket could get a job as a brain surgeon. What then happens when the shelf stacker stuffs up some brain surgery? What effect does that have on the hospital? I have said this before and I will say it again. If this sort of scenario has not happened since the advent of AI, then it will happen soon. It might not be a shelf stacker and brain surgery scenario exactly, but it will be a similar scenario. For example, me being the CEO of the Human Trafficking Foundation. For the record, I am on record as stating that I would be totally useless in that role, and what will happen then? We have another situation in the United Kingdom, in that we are terribly under-endowed with good, solid, capable and competent people in the management levels from team leader upwards to chief executive officer. By my own reckoning, we are probably somewhere in the region of 80% bereft. In the under 30 age bracket, this is probably more like 98% bereft. This, of course, leads to the assertion that AI can let these people who are not capable of these roles filter into them. The recruitment industry does not seem to care either. The old adage of submit a load of CVs and see what happens seems to run through. Commission roulette. If the recruitment industry does care, then maybe I just haven't seen the evidence in terms of process change, for example. This is quite possible. But the humble recruiter is where my previous blog started. Let me quote from the previous blog. This started out with me sticking up for an employer who rejected a CV because it had been created with AI. I agree with the employer on this one. I'm totally with them on this. I should have been clearer originally. The employer rejected the CV to the recruiter and then the recruiter took umbrage. The recruiter was actually quite furious, but not as furious as the employer. The recruiter was also more than furious at people who backed the employer. In my opinion, this was not this recruiter's finest piece of decision-making. Let me start to close. What is absolutely clear is that the employer needs quite a lot of protection from AI-fueled candidates and needs processes to handle this because legislation against the candidate is unlikely to ever happen. The risk is higher than ever and the damage caused could be immense. I do think the recruitment industry needs to help here. I have long said elsewhere that the recruitment industry needs a big shake-up, more about that another time. Employers need to get tougher earlier. The right candidates need to apply for the right roles and be properly prepared for a situation that is designed so that AI cannot help them. We need to get the message out that candidates shouldn't be applying for roles they would be hopeless at. This way we level the playing field, get the right employers the right people and minimize expensive and potentially destructive mistakes. Thank you for listening in. If you like my content and feel able to, please do like it or follow my blogs, Spotify and YouTube channels or Facebook channel. It would mean and help an awful lot. Thank you.